a distinct pleasure to have Mr. Nicolas Cage on my little old podcast. It's good to see you, man.
Happy to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
Congratulations on the film. I mean,
Thank you.
I saw it the other day, and we're here in Toronto. It just premiered. Just give me a sense, first of all, just over the years, you've been to countless premieres.
Yeah.
What jumps out to you as like a memory that was surprising to you, an experience at a premiere where maybe it was better or worse or unusual than what you had expected?
Well, the last one at South by Southwest for Massive Talent, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect these giant foamy costumes as different incarnations of so-called Nick Cage, the Nicky character, out front at the premiere. I didn't expect the kind of transference of electricity that was in the room between the audience and the cast members. That was a real fun night, and that was kind of brand new for me.
Well, what about in terms of brand new? I mean, you grew up loving this, and you still do to this day. When I think of just actors who love acting, I think of Nick Cage. Like,
Thank you.
Do you remember the early years of like the first premieres you went to, and just
Terrible. Oh my gosh.
Were it stressful or what?
Yeah, I was so nervous, and I was so hard on myself and so hard on the movies. In fact, here, 1987, Moonstruck premiered, and Norman was in the cinema with me.
Right.
And I
The
remember,
Canadian, wasn't it Norman
yeah,
Joseph?
yeah, absolutely. It was my first Toronto. It was my first TIFF, and I remember. I got up and I walked out. I said it was a nightmare. I couldn't. The movie doesn't work, and I was really stressed about it. And of course, I was entirely wrong. The movie's great. Everyone was great in it. But Norman I got a call. Like, is he okay? He didn't seem too happy. And I remember I went to the premiere of Valley Girl, the first premiere, and I was sweating. Literally remember a trickle of sweat coming down my face. And Lance Henriksen was sitting in front of me. My chair at the cinema was behind him, and I was sweating. The lights came on, and I was so stressed out. And he turned, and Lance said, "Do you have any idea what kind of actor you are?" And I was like, I don't. I'm horrible. I'm horrible. And he kind of relieved me. I remember that. So those were the first two premieres.
Hopefully you're less hard on yourself now.
Well, then I went to Birdie with
Yes.
Alan Parker.
Let's just go through every one. I want to hear
And
every
he said,
single.
what do you think? I said, "What do you think, Nick? Any good?" I just kept walking. Oh man, I was a mess.
In your own head,
But while at heart, I actually left buzzed.
That was Cannes, wasn't it? That was like
that
a big
was
premiere.
Cannes. I was pumped. That one, I started to really enjoy the experience. But the other ones, and I had no right to be so hard on them, on the movies, on myself, on the co-filmmakers. I had no heart.
I can only
no
imagine
right.
the environment of Cannes and Wild at Heart, that electric.
A mess. It was electric, but people were booing, people were cheering.
Well, that's Lynch. Every Lynch movie.
Yeah,
It's
but I remember I was in a room with Bernardo Bertolucci, Isabella Rossellini, David Lynch, and myself, and I was kind of having a massive panic attack, you know. And I finally just got up and left. It was like I could hear them through the door. "Is he okay? What's wrong with Nick?"
I hope you had a more chill experience on this one.
No, I had I'm past all that. You know, you got to remember, I started when I was 15.
Yeah.
I was just a kid. You know, I was a baby at the Valley Girl premiere, and
Right.
I was relatively a baby at the Moonstruck premiere. You know.
This one, I mean, shockingly, is kind of your first overt Western. I mean, you've kind of like hit every genre. It's what the mark of an amazing career, that you've dabbled in everything, more than dabbled. And I love this character. This is kind of like an archetype that we've seen done very well, and you follow in the lineage. It's kind of that intelligent, obsessive. It's got that Ahab, Colonel Kurtz vibe.
Yeah.
Are you the type of actor that like goes back to those? I mean, you know those roles either.
Sure.
You've seen Apocalypse, I'm sure, 1,000
course.
times.
One
But
of
do you
my
go back?
favorites.
Is it help you, or do you
Yes.
find that gets in your head?
No,
too
I
much?
love it. I love it. I don't see how any kind of a rehearsal or any kind of research wouldn't do anything but help a
Yeah.
performance. And you know, the director of this particular movie would say that he's not a fan of the Western genre. I personally like Westerns, but he feels that this is more of an anti-Western, and,
Sure.
and feels that the Western archetype of what is good, what is evil has done a lot of negative in terms of what it means to be a man, in terms of programming us as men. But that being said, there is a romance to the Western, but I would say my next picture, The Old Way, is more leaning in the direction of the traditional Western archetype. This is more of an anti-Western, more of a kind of a, not a message per se, but a reflection of the darker sides of the human nature that lead us to ambition, greed, and bloodlust to bring an animal to extinction. And it's still happening today. I mean, shark fin soup. But what I think helps me is reading books that inspire me. And this book, John Williams' book, Butcher's Crossing, is a great blueprint. And I had been invited to do The Seawolf with Ron Howard, and he changed his mind to The Grinch. But I read that book, and I loved Wolf Larson because the character is a dichotomy. He's a conflicted character. He's remarkably intelligent. He's well-read. He's reading Milton's Paradise Lost. And then he's on this blood sport to kill all the seals. And I thought that Miller would be my chance to try and examine that type of a character. You know, but in this case, Miller is also, it's implicit, but he's also kind of an agent of genocide. In my mind, it was a subtext, is that he knew specifically, you kill the bison, you kill the American buffalo, you kill the life source, you kill the spiritual life source, the food life source of the people, the First Nation people. So the two things were happening at once, and it really did happen. There were 60 million buffalo, there were 300 buffalo. There were how many Native Americans, and then that. You know what I mean? So that's why he wanted to make this movie.
Talk to me about like your decision on a look of the character. This is like, you've had a lot of different looks over the years, and it's kind of a shock to the system to see you in this bald with the facial hair. Was that your idea? And no,
it was Gabe's idea.
How did you respond to that?
Well, the first thing he said, because you know, I don't follow a lot of sports, but of course, who doesn't know the phenomenon that is Michael Jordan?
Sure.
And if there is an athlete that there's maybe a handful of athletes that I really find remarkable and amazing to watch, and he's one of them. But he's also like a real killer on the court. He is going to win at all costs.
Yes.
And people know that. And Gabe, being from Chicago as well, you know, Bulls and all that, he said, I want you to look like Michael Jordan. I go, well, what are you talking about? I want you to shave your head. I go, well, why? He goes, well, because I think that the energy that to win at all costs, that ambition, I think is applicable to Miller. I thought about it. I thought it was a good idea. So I said, okay, and I did it. And then I thought about the similarities between Kurtz in Heart of Darkness and Marlon's portrayal of Brando's portrayal of Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. And I thought, okay, well, this could be a coalescence of Michael Jordan and Marlon Brando. Two names I don't think we've ever connected before together, except through the funnel that is Nicolas Cage.
Exactly. Leave it to you. Did you have a relationship with Brando? You must have.
I met him a few times, and I always liked him. He was hilarious. I mean, but the one time that comes to mind was he had given a little talk, I think at the CAA building, and I went with Giovanni Ribisi because he was a huge Brando fan, and we went. And I afterwards, you know, Brando told all these really surreal, abstract, and marvelously absurd stories. And I said to him, you know, Marlon, you know, you've really written the inspiration for me to do this. And he said, oh, Jesus Christ, Nick, give me a fucking break.
That's the thing about him, is that like, because you're in some ways, not from the acting prowess part, but the other part, you're the opposite, in that like you revere and love this, and he lost it. He didn't care. He didn't give a shit about acting, and that just bums me out so much.
Well, he said there's, 1, 2, 3. You know, there's a good actor doesn't know where the camera is. A great actor knows where the camera is. And Marlon Brando doesn't care where the camera is.
Sums it up. Oh no. Speaking of bald looks, you've said Egghead is the character you'd want to put. Do you have why Egghead, and what's your interpretation? What do you want to bring to the table?
Well, you know what I mean. It's like Egghead is Vincent Price, right? He's one of our other great American superstar actors that I revere and had so much fun watching growing up, Theater of Blood. So I was watching the Batman show because I really wanted to see what Vincent Price was going to do, and the character is hilarious. I mean, everything starts with excellent, and it's ecstatic, and you know, yeah. But I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not calling Warner Brothers. This is just more of a
fun
little thing because I'm on a red carpet. Somebody asked me a question. I want to give them a funny answer. But yeah, there is an approach to that character that could be terrifying, and I've thought a lot about it. But I'm not going to share it with you.
Our next conversation. We need to build to that. We'll
that's
get there.
On page 47.
Okay. It's funny that like you have the history of being associated with Superman. I feel like you would be like approached at some point for a Batman. Like Nick Cage as Batman makes sense to me in a way.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. There's two kinds of people in the world. There's Superman people and there's Batman.
So you're
people.
A Superman person.
Well, I'm kind of both. I mean,
you just said there was
well, I mean, well, you know,
you can't have it both ways, Nick.
Well, you're right. You're right. Well, I don't want to talk anymore about it because this is going to go viral. It's just anything to do with comic book characters. It just goes and goes.
We can't let them ruin our fun. It's two geeks talking about things we love.
Superman is interesting because Superman, you know, you think about, you know, what is that energy, you know, and it's really the desire, the need, the absolute commitment to do that which is good to a point where is this almost a condition? Is this a you know, a flaw.
Another obsessive, another...
Yeah, something like, what is that? Where's that coming from? Why do we need to be a hero so much? Because you don't feel accepted, because you feel alienated, because you aren't one of us and you gotta fit in.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have Batman, who seems to get a lot of power from, well, he's the most tragic character in all of comic bookdom, isn't he? I mean, look what happened, how he came into the world and became the Batman. You know, so his energy is coming from a place that can go either way. He can do things that are, but he never uses a gun, but he could still do things that are a bit extreme and malevolent.
Yeah. Kevin Smith said he wanted you as Bizarro Superman.
I never had that conversation. I don't know anything about that. Okay. It never came up. I was never a part of that conversation, so you can't rope me into that. I'm not a part of that.
You were a part of Spider-Man, as Spider-Man Noir. Are we going to get to see more of you in
that would be fun. I would love to do that.
Well, you already did. I mean, is there
more
in
I did
Spider-Verse?
it, but wouldn't it be great to see a live action of that character? Because I could bring all the, you know, my favorite actor of all time is James Cagney.
Of course.
You know, he is something else, and he will always be that energy that I would aspire to. But yeah, I'd like to bring some of that energy and the bogey energy that Spider-Man Noir could embody.
You've never done television. You're like it's like you, Tom Cruise, Leo. Like everyone else has done TV. Is that?
Well, I did one. I did The Best of Times, which was a pilot. George Slaughter Productions. George himself discovered me, he discovered me when I was 15. And I did one show, and it didn't get picked up, so it never happened. I never went to series, and I'm thankful for that because my interest is film acting, is cinema. You know.
So that's a philosophy that's just important to you, especially in these times when we talk about we worry about the future of film and theater going. Yeah. That's just going to be to your dying day. Like this is what you've devoted your craft to, your life to, and it's just what it is. It's
well, they say never, but the reality is my interests are cinema.
Yeah.
I want to make movies. That's why I'm here and why we're talking. Movies are what I love.
No, I'm with you.
The close-up, it's James Dean, it's, you know, being at Quentin's cinema, the New Beverly Cinema when I was 15, and having a nervous breakdown while Dean was having a nervous breakdown watching East of Eden. That is why I said, this is what I have to do. I got to try and get there, you know?
You mentioned Quentin. He, a few years back, mentioned you as one of the three great actors in his estimation. He listed Sean Penn and Tim Roth as his favorites of all time. I can't believe you guys haven't worked together. Have you talked to Quentin at any point?
I would put Quentin in the box that is the friend. You know, he's a friend.
Yeah.
I consider him someone that I love talking with. I love communicating with. He's somebody that inspires me. I think it's just magnificent that he bought the New Beverly Cinema and the Vista, and he's keeping these movies. That experience that I had to get in the movie, he bought the church, you know, and he's a guardian of the flame. He's a guardian of the church, and so, you know, my instinct is to keep it in the friendship zone so we can have these delightful exchanges and make lists about favorite films and talk as film enthusiasts.
I've been geeking out. He has a book coming out, as you may or may not know, and he also has like a podcast where him and Roger Avery just talk about like the movies they grew up watching.
Yeah,
in the
well,
video
I'll
store.
probably do something like that at some point for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Me-
because
me
yeah, I
and
would
you,
love to
you know.
go and talk with Quentin at
Yeah.
some point. You know, I enjoy the communication from coming from the brotherhood of those of us that are
devotees
that
of
are
the church of
love,
movies,
love
right?
the church of filmmaking.
Are there actors today that are taking the Nick Cage big swings? I feel like there are not enough. Like, this is what I've always admired about you, is like, as much as you talked about being afraid at premieres early on, you strike me as a fearless performer and have
Thank
been
you.
from the beginning.
Thank you.
And I'm all in for the big swings.
Thank you.
Always.
Thank you.
Do you see that in the new generation?
No,
right?
not as much.
Right?
There are some that definitely have the flair and the verve. I mean, Joaquin. You know, I absolutely just adore everything he does.
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of working with him on 8mm, and we had a
Sure.
lot of laughs, and we had so much fun together. And I just everything he does is inspiring. I think Daniel Day-Lewis, you know, he has the guts. You know, when you look at what he did in There Will Be Blood, you know, or Gangs of New York. I mean, he's got that Cagney largesse,
Yes.
and he's also got the subtlety to do the Phantom Thread. He has it, you know. I'd say Joaquin and Daniel Day have it.
Are you a Tom Hardy fan? It's a weird one to bring up, but like Venom, which is I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. I feel like that's like a Nick Cage swing. If he was like doing that kind of movie, that's what he would do.
Well, I haven't seen Venom, but I do think he's terrific. I like so much of what he does. I've been operating on like 5 hours sleep
That's
because
okay.
I just had
New-
a new
dad
baby.
again.
But
It's
what
okay.
was the picture he did where he was in the car? It was just him.
Of course, Locke.
Locke was, bravo, Tom Hardy.
Have you ever done like something like that? I'd love to see you like in that
I
contained
did
environment.
just recently wrap up a picture with Joel Kinnaman called Sympathy for the Devil, where it was just the two of us predominantly going through this movie together, mostly in a car.
Yeah.
But with Locke, Hardy, it was just him, you
Yes.
know, and I thought that was magnificent. I thought that was arguably one of the best performances of the decade.
Do you remember your last audition, Nick Cage, way back when? What was do you remember like when it ended, when you never had to step into that audition room again?
Yeah,
It's a long time now, I'm sure.
It wasn't good. It wasn't really an audition. It was one of those uncomfortable meetings, and I don't know. It was it Adrian Lyne? I don't think it was Adrian Lyne.
Were you a good auditioner like back in the day, or were you
Probably not.
No?
No. See, I have a theory about auditions, and I think now they do it more often than not, which is you got to put a frame on it. You got to put your audition on tape and put a frame on it, because if you do something genuinely amazing in an audition in a room, it's going to be original, and it probably is going to scare them. If it's genuinely great, it's going to scare them away. So if you put a frame on it, they can look at it and go, wait a minute, what was that? And sleep on it, go back and look at it and go, wait, oh, there's something really going on here. So
Right.
that's my recommendation.
I'll wrap this up, but I'm just curious, is there any status update on the Face Off sequel? Have you seen
I
a
have
script?
no status update. I have not seen a script, nothing.
Are you ready? Do you still have Travolta in there? Do you have the Travolta voice and mannerisms? It's
Well,
still...
I don't know about that. I know that I think that the group that is seems sincere about putting this together are people that I like. I like the auspices of the filmmakers. I like their movies. I think they're a lot of fun, and I think they have a concept that is pretty complex, and it could really work, but I haven't seen a script.
Well, in keeping with the Ahab kind of theme, you've been one of those white whales for me to get on the actual podcast for quite a while. And this
Thank
is a
you.
little shorter than we usually do, but I'm still going to wear you down. You're going to come on the real podcast one of these
Okay.
days for the full geek out career conversation.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
going to hold
there.
you to it.
Oh,
man.
absolutely, man. Yeah.
Congratulations on the new film. It's always a
Thank
pleasure,
you.
buddy.
Thanks again. All
Thanks,
right,
man.
cheers.